Welcome to the Sin Bin Podcast, your home for all the news, analysis, and discussion around your Bloomington Bison.
Let's drop the puck and get started.
Welcome back to episode 8 of the Sin Bin Podcast. It's St. Patty's Day, so we both got on our green. And
we don't want to get pinched.
Yeah, absolutely. No one would want that here. But we are back with episode 8 of the Sin Bin Podcast and a big weekend to talk about already.
Very big.
We might as well just get into it already because we have so much to talk about this week. First of all, we'll talk about the first game, and that was definitely a frustrating loss. Going up 2-0 in the first, you really think you have it, and then throughout the second, you let in one goal, but it was honestly very back and forth, so it could have gone either way. And then just 3 goals in the third period. You can't have it.
I got to give credit to Tulsa because, in my opinion, it felt like the whole weekend, even when we had a lead, they were just on our tails the entire weekend. And I was on the edge of my seat every single game, praying that Bloomington would hold on to the lead. Because it felt like every time that we would get a lead, it would be like, all right, we just got to hold off every attack and then get another one, because Tulsa was always coming. And Andy Zilch, the play-by-play guy, had mentioned a stat. I want to say it was in the first game. He said that Bloomington is 22-6-1 when we score first.
Ooh.
And if that tells you anything, that just shows you how important it is to score first. Obviously, didn't do great in the first game for us, but when you get that first goal, it just does something within your team to kind of jumpstart you. And I don't know. They had me on the edge of the seat because I was kind of nervous that they weren't going to hold off Tulsa. Credit to Tulsa for fighting. The next 2 games, they got us in that first one, but overall, not the game that we wanted, but we responded really well.
Well, I'm telling you, they dominated shots in basically all 3 games. Like, you look at the game sheets for these 3, and it was the only game it was close was the second game when they won 6-3. The shots were identical. First game, they were 40-25 in favor of Tulsa. And in the third game, let me pull that up because this is the Kaskasuo Masterclass. We'll get to that in a second.
Man, Kaskasuo.
But Kaskasuo Masterclass, 4-2. Shots were 49-22 in favor of the Oilers.
See, okay, and that's... you want to get a lot of shots on goal, and it looks bad when you're getting outshot. But I will say, that is another stat that I think, they say stats don't lie. Well, that's a stat that does. Because you can have 15 shots on goal, and people be like, oh, wow, you only got 15 shots on goal.
But they can be really good shots on goal.
Exactly. You can get 15 shots, but 5 of them went in.
I always thought offensive zone time was a much better metric, but nowhere ever, actually counts that. So
yeah.
I would love that metric, but oh well. But yeah, no, 40 you're right, that stat does lie. Very much like plus minus, where people will give someone a ton of credit. There are definitely times that plus minus is useful. Say the person who has the highest plus minus is still probably pretty darn good because they're on the ice for more than they're not. However, it is not a good indicator of how good a player is.
And that particular stat is, that's an individual stat, but that's not an individual stat.
Yeah,
your plus
exactly.
minus, your plus minus depends on so many other things than just yourself. That depends on the 4 other guys on the ice with you, and the 5 other ones that you're facing on the other end. But I don't know. I think to be honest, we played really well in that game up to a certain point, but I still thought it was a decent showing against Tulsa because Tulsa's they're not a bad team. Their offense is ridiculously good. They scored at a ridiculous rate.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it sucks that we gave up the lead. It's going to become more important that we don't do that down the stretch.
Yes.
But I think good learning opportunity.
Exactly, honestly. And that's something that I think the Bison, especially if they're going to go far in the playoffs, they need to learn that in particular, how to hold on to leads. Because the way they play is more defensive. It's more opportunistic, which is really good. You want to talk about opportunistic? Let's think of 2003 Anaheim Ducks, all right? That team, when you look at it on paper, was not very good. But they were incredibly optimistic, or not optimistic, they were incredibly opportunistic. So when they got their chances, they scored. And that's how the Bison kind of operate, even with their forward core. Even when they're dominating, they're not really dominating in shot metrics, as we just mentioned. But when they're at their best, they're being opportunistic, and when they get their chances, burying them. And when you have good depth with that, along with a system from head coach Philip Barsky that's very defensive. That's very, I mean, even with games where you explode for offense, like 6-3 win in the next game, like, even then, it's a very defensive team. So being able to learn how to hold on to leads is going to be very important. And I think that they did throughout this weekend. And that's a big thing going into the playoffs, because if you're an opportunistic team that can hold on to a lead, you're a really hard team to beat, especially come playoff time. Yep. So I feel like they're embracing that role, and that's great. If they could just stop having everybody called up, that would also be really cool. Because, well, okay, we'll talk about the second game first before I get to that. But in the second game, a huge 6-3 dominant win. So after a, more rough game, like you blew the lead. Like it was 2-0, they seemed to have it through 2 periods and then just let in 3. And Kaskisuo was replaced by Yaniv Peretz for the next game. He starts. Yaniv Peretz gets injured, so Kaskisuo comes back in, but they still end up winning the game again, 6-3, and some great stats from some of your players here. Staudiker had an assist. I love that. Connor Lockhart with a crazy good goal and an assist. Chongmin Lee with a goal and an assist. Like, 2 goals. The big one was from Danny Kadek. 2 goals. Eddie Matsushima, the captain in his first game or his second game back against his former team, also scores.
That was so great.
Oh,
that was so great.
Oh yeah.
I actually
that goal was gross.
I went to that Saturday game, and I hadn't got a chance to hear it in person yet, but the Eddie chants.
Oh yeah.
I mean that was just fantastic.
No, the Eddie chants are awesome. Honestly, that was just so good, and such a good play too. Just like out muscling and out speeding the defender to the puck and burying on the opportunity. Like it was just great play through and through. And that's now that you have your captain back, that's something you can really lead you. I'm thinking to a playoff spot. I'm gonna say it. Like I said earlier that I didn't think the Bison were gonna get a playoff spot. And after this weekend, I'm switching my stance.
Okay.
I'm switching my stance. I think they can. I think they needed a weekend like that. And even with that rough first win, the whole problem with that was that they couldn't keep the lead.
Yep.
They did just that in both other games.
Well, and I think, we bring up the Danny Kadek performance, and he's been fantastic. He was fantastic for us in that game. But I also think, getting contributions from him, from other guys, and you mentioned Eddie, and we talk about Eddie all the time, great dude. But I think you bring up a good point, because when he came back, it was almost like we couldn't find ourselves a little bit for, that first couple games. But I'm kind of hoping that this is going to be, this weekend and him getting a couple goals will be that kind of kickstart for our team of like, Eddie's back.
Yeah.
We're gonna tear it up. We're going for it. We're gonna make the playoffs. Because I have believed this all along, but once we got Eddie back, I mean, to me that was gonna be a huge lift to our team, and hopefully now we're gonna actually start to see that come to fruition with kind of getting him back into the speed of things. So I think it was just great all around, getting, seeing him perform, and then Danny Kadek, of course. I can't think of a better time for a weekend like this for the Bison because, like we said, Tulsa's not that bad of a team at all. And you performed really, really well, and you gained momentum into a even bigger weekend next weekend, which we'll get into. But these games, Dylan, are stressing me out because every week I feel like we talk about having big games, and they just get even larger.
Yeah, well, I'm saying this weekend, yeah, we'll talk about that game in a little bit, but that game's going to be huge. But we'll continue with this one for just a second. So also, this was the debut of Shane Ott. And I want to talk about Shane Ott because obviously for the first 6 weeks of this channel, we talked about the Blackhawks as well.
Yep.
And while I was doing prospect analysis for that show, I would look at the NCAA stats for different players like Oliver Moore and Sasha Bobber, yada, yada. And I found Shane Ott because he was really high up on the NCAA point per game rankings because he played for Niagara University. He's 24 and just signing out of college. Now he's been killing it for that team, one of their best players. So I had been seeing his name multiple times already throughout the year. And when I see Bison sign Shane Ott, I'm like, wait, what? Like the guy who's a point per game in the NCAA? Like that is not something to scoff at. Like
No.
That is
That's a
major
darn good
league
signing.
That's a darn good league, and that's a darn good sign. I think I texted you when that happened. I'm like, dude, that signing is huge. And sure enough, through 2 games, he has 2 points and already leads the team in points per game. Only second is Eddie, but he's obviously played 55. So it's only 2 games, but like a good start.
Yeah.
Good start. He's been that center that he was at Niagara, and once he like meshes further with the team, that's even better. You keep replacing the guys that you're losing.
Good signs, and I think we've talked about this just with a multitude of trades that we've made, at least like with Robidoux and stuff. But these moves that Philip Barsky, the head coach and GM, are making, I mean, it seems like every move he makes, whether it's a signing, a trade, I mean, they just keep making them look better and better. I mean, I don't think that you could say that there's one move that Coach Barsky has made that's been bad. Could you say that maybe it hasn't worked out as well as he thought? Probably. But I think every move he's made has been a good one, and Shane Ott is adding to that repertoire and history to that, and 2 games, 2 goals, or 2 points. I think that's going to be really, really key because as we talk about gaining momentum at this stage of the game and the season, super important. So also congratulations to him. So shout out to Shane Ott.
Absolutely. No, so great start for him. Honestly, I had not even realized, I was just looking this up, I had not realized that Sam Coda got traded like a couple weeks ago. That news had completely whiffed me. So I was looking at like the top point scorers, and I was like, oh, right, I forgot about Sam Coda. And then I was like, oh, he's not on the team anymore. I forgot.
Let's be honest here. It's kind of hard to keep up with all the Bison moves because
admittedly,
last month and a half, 2 months, they've made a heck of a lot of moves.
Oh, so. Yeah. So, as we just said, end of that first game, Danny Kadek, 2 goals, and gets called up to the Wolves. And I'm like, man, can we keep our players for like 10 minutes? All right, like just we're finally going to a playoff push. It's looking great. Okay, I'll take him, please. Like, come on. Like, Hartford is not that good. They just lost to Rockford like 2-0. Like the other day. Like because I was following that for Blackhawk stuff, and I saw that the Hartford Wolfpack. I'm like, there's no way they're even close to a playoff standing right now. I mean, I'll look at it, but like. We talked about it. I know you got to do what's best for your franchise, but like at least like the Wolves with Kadek, like at least I think the Wolves are fighting for a playoff spot. Like I'm checking right now. Yeah, the Wolves are in a battle with the Ice Hogs right now for a playoff spot. So at least they're like
that could make more sense for them.
Exactly, a big boost could really help them. So that makes sense. However, the Hartford Wolfpack are 7th in their division. And just lost to the Rockford Ice Hogs. They have 25. They're 25, 29, and 7.
I mean, that just makes me wonder because, like, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but we talked about, I think it was last week, how I mentioned, we need to watch the Rangers injuries and Hartford injuries.
Yep.
So I'm sure that it's probably, for lack of a better term, 50-50 of, playoff chances for those teams and injuries. But I feel like the injuries would probably take a more precedent role in that, or higher role. But I'm not a GM. I do not get paid the big bucks. I'm just putting that out there right now. This is why I'm doing a podcast and not being a GM. But no, it is interesting because, like, I don't know. It's kind of weird to think about. I was thinking about it this yesterday, like thinking about it from a big perspective of, okay, the Rangers are kind of our big boss, so to speak.
Essentially.
Because their moves affect everyone below them. And so I don't think that some people realize that, and that trickle-down effect. But some moves, can trick us into being like, okay, what does that have to do with certain things and stuff? But honestly, I think we just have to trust the process. Like we said, the ECHL is an up and down league, and you can't really, fault teams for doing what they have to do. And we have no control over the Rangers, and we have no control over the Hartford or the Wolves. So we're just gonna have to make do. And we always wish, when people get moved to the best. But I don't know. I just thought it was interesting thinking of it. Like, you can't control it, but it is kind of cool to watch and see, like, okay, what's happening at the New York level versus what's happening in Hartford or Chicago or other farm teams around the league, because it has a lot more of an effect than I think some people think.
Yeah, no. What the Rangers do is always going to affect what the Bison does. It's just the affiliation. That's just what's going to happen. It's the same way with, like, the Fuel and the Blackhawks. Like, they got to be watching what they're doing, because if they get a couple injuries, they're probably calling people up from the AHL. And honestly, what kind of worries me, I'm really excited for the Blackhawks to sign their prospects out of college. But the problem is some of them are going to go to Rockford then, which means Rockford's going to have too many players, and some are going to get sent down to the Fuel. And so they're going to get loaded back up right before the playoffs.
That means...
So while I'm really excited from the Blackhawks perspective of it, I'm like, I don't really want to face Indy when they're, like, really good.
Yeah, that could be a problem for the Bison, but you know what? I think we can handle it. I think we can run right through them.
I mean, after this weekend again, we'll go to that last game, because what a big win as that last game, 4-2, and they were dominant the entire game. It was 3-0 until the third period, and yes, Tulsa did score 2.
And made me nervous. I'm telling you.
Gotta make it close for a second, and then that Eddie Matsushima goal with 10 seconds left. Another one, we were just talking about it with his goal in the last game, but he does it again. Just outworks the player to the puck and gets there, fires it home.
That is something that you can
up by 2 with 10 seconds left. It's
really, really see with Eddie. Like, I mean, you see it with other players too, but like specifically on that goal, like the way he skates and just out-muscled the guy is just ridiculous.
Who he reminds me the most of watching, like, honestly,
who's that?
Brandon Hagel.
All right.
When I
the Eddie Brandon comparison,
like, I'll be honest. When I watch Eddie play, I'm like, that's exactly what Brandon Hagel does, or at least what he did when he was on the Hawks. Honestly, I don't know how he's playing right now with the Lightning. I haven't been watching their games, and he's a 90-point player now. But I would assume he's still that dog on the puck. Like, that was all Brandon Hagel does. When he's on the ice, he is a rabid dog at the puck, and that's what I feel like Eddie can do. It's just like, if it's in his vicinity, and now, not that like he's gonna get out of position to do that, but the second it becomes a foot race or an out-muscling effort to
he turns on the fuel, bro.
He turns on the jets, and
he gets it
done.
going.
It's the second that it's no longer a position battle and it's just a flat-out race, it's over. It's over because Eddie's going to get there first. He's going to outwork you. And that's what Brandon Hagel did when he was on the Hawks. You remember.
Yo, I totally agree. I think that's a very good comparison. And I think it's just amazing to see that because, like, and like, that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying, like, hopefully that our team will get a boost by having him back. That's the kind of stuff that you want and that you need in your team. And not to say that we didn't have that from other players. I am not dissing other players at all on the Bison. They all work very, very hard. But
we're not bringing the players down. We're lifting Eddie up.
Exactly.
Because it's that, I mean, you have a captain who's like, it reminds me of like Carolina with like Jordan Martinook. Like Jordan Martinook is not a first line player, all right? Eddie Matsushima is a first line player, but I'm saying that's what Jordan Martinook does. He gets in the dirty areas. He's that guy. So to have someone like a Brandon Hagel who leads your team into like all of the hard working effort, especially, like, how can that not be contagious? How can you not see your captain go out there and be an absolute dog on the puck and want to like, oh, okay, well, this next shift I might, like, I'm feeling really, like, out of it. I might, like, no, you're not going to be able to do anything when you see your captain working his butt off towards the puck, skating like his life depends on it. Like, that's, when you have a captain like that, that's inspiring for other players. I remember when I was in roller hockey, when my person who was the captain during my team, when Vinny, would he get fired up and when he'd, like, just haul to the puck and stuff like that, the whole team rallies around that. So I don't know if it's the same at the professional level, but I'm saying, at least in my hockey experience, when you have a captain who is just that dog and works hard on the puck, it inspires the rest of the team to do that as well. And I think you saw that in all 3 games this weekend.
Absolutely. Honestly. And it doesn't even have to be a captain. But we're using Eddie as an example. Exactly. He happens to be the captain. But there are just times where if you need a boost and you see other players working hard and playing for each other, because you don't play for yourself. You don't play for the name on the back. You play for the name on the front.
The classic line.
And, that gets everyone fired up.
Absolutely.
All right, we're getting fired up right now talking about it.
Oh, absolutely.
So if we're on the ice, then shoot, we're going to get even more fired up
Exactly.
about it. So shout out to all the Bison, though, because they're all like that.
Yeah.
But,
they're dogs.
It was just, yeah. It was a great weekend. I don't think it could have gone any better.
Honestly, because again, you want to be like, oh, you lost that first game, like, that's annoying. But to see the learning progression,
yes,
like, to literally see the mistake that they made in the first game, and then that exact same situation comes up again and again, and you overcome it those both times, shows the progression of the team. And having that progress like that right before the playoffs as well is huge.
Absolutely. And I want to take a quick shout out, or not shout out, but you can call it whatever you want. But we hope that Yaniv Peretz is okay. Hopefully it's not too serious.
Very much.
Kaskasuo did a great job stepping in, but Peretz, hope you're okay, man. Hope you recover quickly and get back to us, because we will miss you.
We need that Quinnipiac magic. Quinnipiac magic from you, man. So get better soon, definitely, Yaniv. But oh man, Kaskasuo in that last game. Shots on goal, I mentioned it earlier, but 49-22, like, Kaskasuo just shut the door on that one. I mean, you want to talk about overcoming. That's why it was such a big learning experience from both games, because the first game, they didn't overcome it from their goaltender. They overcame it as a team, more as forwards, and just continued to pile on goals to make it impossible for them to take the lead back. But in the second game, it wasn't as easy. Again, you only had that Eddie Matsushima goal with 10 seconds left. So all the way from that, they did score 2 more. And that you saw Kaskasuo hold down the fort.
Yep.
And 49 shots only let in. I mean, again, shots on goal can be misleading, but still, that means 49 shots hit his pads.
That's not easy, folks.
That's not at all easy.
A lot of shots and a lot of vulcanized rubber coming at you.
Those vulcanized rubber pucks, dude. Oh, man. Like, so, masterclass there by Kaskisuo. Love that. And he, as worried as I am for Peretz, and I want him to get better really badly, I feel very confident in Kaskisuo as our starting goaltender moving forward. And then once Peretz comes back, having those two in a tandem is going to be scary, especially if Peretz can get healthy before the playoffs.
Well, I think we've talked about it before a couple episodes ago. Like, the Bison are extremely fortunate to have the goaltenders that they do.
Absolutely.
And again, Andy Zilch mentioned something this weekend about it. It's very rare. The Bison might be, if they're not the only team, they're one of the very few teams in the ECHL to have two goalies that have actually played at the NHL level this year. And that is something you will not find in the ECHL.
Nope.
So the Bison are very, very fortunate in taking advantage of it, because you need your goaltender to be the best player on the ice sometimes. We've said that many times, and Kaskisuo definitely was that player for us at certain points of the game, making some of those big saves to keep the lead, even when our offense maybe wasn't pouring it on.
Yeah. No, it's... I mean, both of these goalies have just been really good for us, honestly. Like, just... It's hard to say. I mean, like, we have been so fortunate with our goal. I mean, we had Mark Sinclair, who was our all-star and did so much for us throughout the regular season. And then he goes to the Liga. And, I mean, hey, that's probably maybe a little bit of an upgrade, I'd say, the Liga. I mean, it's the top league in Finland. And, I mean, I was worried after Mark Sinclair was traded.
Yep,
I was like,
I was
dude,
too.
I don't know if we're going to be able to rebound. And I am, like, I am admitting I was wrong here with Kaskisuo too, because I remember a couple podcasts ago we were talking about how I was very confident in Yaniv Peretz, but I was worried because we could only see Kaskisuo in one game.
Yep.
And then, sure enough, this weekend happens, and let me tell you, you don't have any more doubters anymore, Kaskisuo. I can assure you that. I can assure you that. No more doubts from me here.
Maybe
You've
he
won me over.
Maybe he heard us talking and was like, "Who is this dude?
Yeah, who's this dude?
Let me shut this guy up."
And sure enough, I shall be shut up. Just fantastic performance this weekend from Kaskisuo, and that's huge, especially when you're, again, the goaltender you've been rolling through a lot of the year, Yaniv Peretz, goes down. I mean, he had a great performance in game one. Even with those 3 goals in the third, there was a lot coming at him. Like, it was not his fault on that one. It was just a little unfortunate in the third period there. They got outshot 13-8. So, I mean, again, shots not everything, but you can tell the momentum was in their favor in that period for sure.
Yeah, the momentum swings are, again, that was the theme of the weekend, and we'll see how they fare with it as these games keep getting more and more important, because the momentum swings are only going to get larger whether they're in favor of the Bison or against the Bison. It's going to get harder and harder to kind of weather the storm, so to speak, on getting, surges of offense and defense, but I think it was a good start for the Bison this weekend. Get a taste of. It's been playoff hockey for probably a couple weeks now, but it's playoff hockey now.
Well, I'm saying it was definitely that this past weekend, and I think it will be for this next game for sure. But I think at least finally you want to have those meaningful games, but you have some games that you might be able to have some leeway in at least. But this upcoming game, no. This upcoming game is against Kalamazoo, and that is a must-win, especially at home. Then you have one at Indy, and that's another must-win. Again, those are the two that you're going to be competing with. You look at the standings right now, and finally they've kind of pulled away from the Cyclones. They've been on a rough skid in their last 4 games, back to kind of what they were doing at the beginning of the year. Again, they do have 5 less wins than the Bison. It's just that they also have 10 overtime losses. So
that's so many.
The loser points are stacking up, and I'm going to keep calling them that because it's what they are, and they just have so many loser points that they're kind of close. but we have 5 more wins than them. And I would be shocked if the Cyclones managed to come back, especially after like having such a bad start and then finally on that upward momentum and then you just cut it off again. It's going to be really hard, I think, to get that upward momentum, especially once you're already last in the division at this point in the season.
We could put the dagger in them.
I think, put a fork in the Cyclones. They're done. But the Fuel and Wings are going to be the 2 teams that you're really competing with. Again, as I said, the Blackhawks, when they sign a bunch of their college prospects, some of them are going to go to the Hawks, and they're going to have to send people down to Rockford. And then some of them are going to go to Rockford, and they're going to have a ton more players, and they're probably going to send down some people like Paul Ludwinski. I wouldn't be surprised if he got sent down. I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Lupin got sent down. I mean, there's not really many defensemen in college that they're going to sign, other than Sam Renzel, but mainly the forwards. They're going to have a lot of forward help going to Indy later in the year. So be wary of that. That's the biggest thing. So that next game, which is against the Fuel, is another must win, and that's why, because you can't let them regain standing on you right now before they have their reinforcements, because they're not going to sign. The only one I think might sign is Dominic James, and in the next few days, and that'd be 1 spot, and I don't really think they're going to send someone down right now. So you have the ability to gain more lead on the Fuel. So these next 2 games are semi-playoff games. The one against Kalamazoo, absolutely. I mean, both of you are tied right now in wins, and they have 1 less game played than you and are tied with you in points. So it is a must win. It's a must win, especially at home. You're tied for the playoff spot right now. And yes, Kalamazoo has been on fire lately. They're 7-1-2 in their last 3. Technically 1 shootout loss, 1 overtime loss, but still. And then they're 3-0-1 in their last 4. So they have not lost a game in regulation in the last probably a couple weeks.
That's crazy. That's a crazy run.
Exactly.
At a crazy time.
Yeah. So this is a pretty big game. It's at home. It's against a really hot team, but it's also a team that I'm pretty sure you've been good against in the past. I'll check their schedule right now, but in all of the recent games I can remember, they were pretty darn good. They obviously had the one game that they faltered. That was the last game. Let me pull up once I can find all of their games. Yeah, so the last one was a 4-0 loss in them. And I remember when that happened, it was like, oh, that's brutal. But the games before that game against the Wings, actually the Wings won that one as well, 6-3, but that was also at their arena. So pause. Then the last one that was in Bloomington was a 3-0 win over the Wings. That was also right after they beat the Walleye. Then the game before that, they beat the Wings 7-2 in their arena, not in ours. And then you won 5-2 in the game before that, and then the Wings won. And then the Wings won the one before that as well, 5-1. So it's kind of been back and forth all year from what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing a consistent trend of being better than the Wings, but there's not really a consistency of the Wings getting the best of them. We have some dominant wins against them. They have some dominant wins against us. We have some close wins against them. We have some close wins against us.
Yep.
They're hot right now. We're pretty hot right now. I'm telling you, this is a playoff game. When I look at this game against specifically Kalamazoo, because again, the Indy one is huge, but specifically this next game against Kalamazoo, that's a playoff game. That is a playoff game, especially with the crowd. There's gonna be puppies in the crowd, bro. You gotta win that game.
I forgot about that. If you like hockey and dogs, go to the game. Get your tickets. Go to the Bison website.
Bring your dog. You can bring your dog.
Bring your dog. Avoid the Ticketmaster fees. Call the Bison ticket office. We don't want you paying the Ticketmaster fees.
Ticketmaster fees. Boo.
But get your tickets because we're going to need you there. It's a huge, huge game, and we need points. We need 2 points. Not points. We need 2 points.
Yeah.
Not just 1. We need 2. We need both of them.
Absolutely. I mean, Yeah, we definitely need the points against the Wings. Not one. We need 2 points in that so we can actually separate from the Wings a little bit. And then
we play Toledo after them, no?
No, we play the Fuel right after that. After we play the Fuel, then we have Toledo. And in their barn. But I'm saying that's like, if you were to lose that game, that's a lot less important than losing these next two. In theory. Like, not that you should have games off, but I'm saying like the game against the Walleye and maybe like the game against the Comets, those are a little more like, if you lose those games, it's not as impactful as if you were to lose to the Heartlanders, Wings, or Fuel.
Yeah. I forgot about that indie game in between, but
yeah, then they face the Comets and home and then away. Then they have the Nailers, which are pretty good, but that should definitely be a team you beat, I think. I mean, let me look back at the standings really quick, but they were really good for a while, but then they fell. They're in the East. Let me check where they are. Yeah, because I knew they were higher, but they're also in a much harder they're in the lighter division. I thought they were in. They're still second in their division right now, so they're pretty good.
They helped us out this weekend.
They only have 74 points, so they're about on the same level as like the Heartlanders when talking about full league. Like, they're right above the Heartlanders right now. The Heartlanders are in 14th, the Nailers are in 11th, so they're higher, but they're only 2 points above them. So, and like the Oilers are above the Nailers, even after having 2 losses this weekend to the Bison. They're still above the Nailers.
That was something else that you just reminded me of that I wanted to bring up, because not only, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because you got the standings pulled up, but when I had last looked, we cannot overlook those wins against Tulsa, because Tulsa is fighting for a playoff spot if they're not already in one, I believe.
They are in a playoff spot.
So they're fighting to keep that, and I'm pretty sure it's pretty close, at least the last time I looked.
They're in the Mountain Conference, and there is a belief, I think, within the team that, like, or maybe not within the team, but I think in, like, around the league, that the Mountain Conference is pretty darn good, I would say. Mm-hmm. So, like, when the Oilers are, yes, they're third right now, and they're kind of fighting for a playoff spot. They're about 9 points above getting out of a playoff spot.
Okay, it must have changed when I looked. Because when I looked, it was like they were maybe 6 points.
I always personally disagreed with that sentiment. I mean, I think the new team, the Tahoe Night Monsters, is pretty darn good. But other than that and the Mavericks, I always thought that division was heavily overrated. I don't think the Mavericks are as good as, like, the Walleye. I don't think, and, like, the Mavericks are above, or actually they were, they're not anymore, but they were above the Walleye. Now the Walleye are above the Mavericks, as the Mavs are in 5th, Walleye are in 4th, as they've already clinched a playoff spot. But we talk about the best division in the ECHL, and I think it's pretty hard to argue that it's not the South Division, because that has the Carolina Stingrays, the Florida Everblades specifically, and the Jacksonville Icemen, who are all top 5 in the league. They're top 3 in their division, and they're top 5 in the league.
So what you're saying is the Bison are very fortunate that they're not in that division,
no,
and we're in the division that we are.
However, that division isn't perfect. They also have the Ghost Pirates, Swamp Rabbits, and Gladiators, and you saw how we did against the Gladiators. We beat them both when we faced them. Yep. So those are the lower teams, but they do also have the Orlando Solar Bears, which are one of the more followed teams in the league, I would say, because I have heard of the Orlando Solar Bears before I even followed the ECHL. So that's more of a well-known team as well. They're probably going to hold that last playoff spot, barring a Gladiators random comeback. But I'm saying that's a really good division. You look at the Mountain. I'm not saying it's a bad division. I think all of the divisions are pretty darn good. I'm saying the weakest, though, might be the North Division, which is, I mean, the one that the Nailers are in. But again, they're 2 in their division, and they're below the Oilers, who are, or they're right above they're below the Tulsa Oilers, who are in 10th in the league. So, like,
who we just beat.
Exactly. So I'm not too worried about the Nailers, honestly. They're second in their division, and they're a good team, and you can't just like ignore them. But I think that's like, again, especially with some of these really hot teams, some of the teams that are going to be really hard to beat, I think it's a more nice change of pace, because then you go right back into Toledo, and then you have another must-win game, 2 in a row against Kalamazoo, and then another one against the Fuel. So
that's wow.
That's what I'm trying to give credit to. It's not as bad if you lose some of these games, but these are the must wins. You're talking about those most important games, and this next game, Friday, the puppy game, whenever all the puppies are there, you gotta buy your tickets, because that's a playoff game. Because right now in the standings and everything, that is a playoff game. And I would be shocked if it ain't a good one. I'd be shocked if it ain't chippy. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bison get completely shut out 3-0 and Kalamazoo stomps them, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Bison won 7-1. Because
it's just so back and forth.
Anything can happen in these games, honestly. And that, I think the Wings are another really fun in division team to play, honestly, because it's always, whenever you face the Wings, it's like, roll the dice. You could see the best of the Bison, or you could see the worst of the Bison. It's just, what are you going to get? And especially with those lessons you just learned this past weekend and stuff like that, like, I really want to see that must-win game right now. I want to see this team really take its identity and be like, no, this is who we are. We win big games. And I think if they win this one, it's huge for not just playoff standing, but playoff like
belief,
progress, and belief.
Exactly. Yeah, like
that's the word I was trying to think of.
The progress and belief that the Bison can get from beating Kalamazoo is like, I mean, I'm sure they're already probably thinking like, okay, we're gonna make the playoffs, because they're not telling themselves though that they're not. But if you beat Kalamazoo, I think that just does it's insane what one win can do to your brain and to a team's confidence. Because I mean, if they beat Kalamazoo, they could. Okay, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but they could catch Iowa. If Iowa falls off a cliff, I'm not saying it's gonna happen. All right, don't quote me on that, but I'm saying that's the kind of stuff that it can do, though. It can lift you up.
All I'm saying is that the Heartlanders have one more game played, and they're currently 13 points above us. So this late in the season, very unlikely. However, they are currently 0-3-2 in their last 3 games. So they've not won a game in their last 5, only 2 overtime losses. So
you're saying there's a chance?
So if they continue to completely let the wheels fall off, I'm not saying it's impossible.
It's not impossible, but it would be very hard.
Unlikely.
It would be very hard, yes.
Very unlikely, but very hard, but it is still, in
get
theory,
the idea, yeah.
Possible, yes. I'm excited to see what the Bison can do in this game against the Wings, and then if Heartlanders fall off a cliff, and Bison and Wings would make the 3 and 4. Let's do it. Why not?
Imagine that happening.
That'd be a crazy end of the season. Like, they just win their next 10 straight, and the Heartlanders just fall off the wagon. And
that would be absolutely wild.
And the Bison make it in. Oh man,
I think
Heartlanders don't win a game for the rest of the year.
I think I'd have a heart attack. You know what? You know why they wouldn't win a game for the rest of the year?
Why?
It's because they'd be too busy going in the penalty box. Lead the dang division in penalty minutes by probably
1,056. They currently have penalty minutes. The second is the Fuel with 811. So not even close.
All right, well, I don't want to get on a tangent. This is not about Iowa.
We've been on plenty of tangents, but I'm just very excited looking at this team right now. It's very exciting. Lou Felix Denis. Can we talk about Lou Felix Denis? Oh, man. So we just had news. We haven't mentioned this yet. Well, this will be the last thing we mention for the podcast today, but Patrick Bykov just got traded to the Reading Royals for future considerations. And they say that this is going to be the completion for the future considerations that was traded for Lou Felix Denis. So essentially, it was Bykov for Lou Felix Denis. And let me tell you, I am laughing my way to the bank with that trade. I'll take it. This is no offense to Bykov. He was pretty darn good for us. He scored 15 points in 26 games, solid defensively, and he knew Coach Barsky. And so he seemed to get a good amount out of him, definitely better than he did in the Cyclones or the Rush. So honestly, I have wishing him nothing but the best. I hope he goes into the Royals and goes back to what he was with the Royals in 21-22, because he was with the Royals in 21-22, put up 69 points in 71 games. So,
dang,
like, he was near a point per game with the Royals when he was there. So I hope he can get back to that. Honestly, I have nothing but love for Patrick Bykov, but I'm just happy with Lou Felix Toné. I mean, right now he turns 21 in 4 days, so he'll turn 22 on March 21st. So early birthday, I guess. But again, that's pretty darn young. He just got out of the queue last year, so he's a really young player, and he was a point per game guy in the queue when he was there. So. And he's now 3 goals, 5 points in 6 games for the Bison. Like, I don't know.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I will pose a question because I think we see it at other levels too. If the Bison were to make the playoffs, let's say, because in general, I don't have their ages, memorized, but in general, the Bison are a very, very, very young team.
Correct.
Very, very, very young. And if we make the playoffs, do you think that is going to hurt us?
No.
Because you don't.
I don't. And here's
Really?
why. Well, I think from a physicality aspect, you could say yes. But I don't know. I feel like the biggest thing with this team is, as you saw it this weekend, they get better the more games they play. And that's what I feel. I was talking to you about it earlier, actually, before we started the podcast. But this team, I feel, is a team that would thrive off of not stopping. Look at their captain, Eddie Matsushima. That's his whole thing. He doesn't stop. When there's a loose puck, that's his. That's the kind of mentality that this team has, I feel like. And I say, if they do make the playoffs, I hope every series goes to Game 7. Because this is the kind of team that just builds off of playing. They build off of continue to work together. And the big thing with that is, yes, they're young, but that means that they're quick on their feet. All right, that means that it's the modern level of hockey that's being played. And you look at, honestly, a lot of championship teams, and they kind of do it when they're young in recent years. Think of the Avalanche. They had just gotten Cale Makar a couple of years earlier, and he was playing at some of the highest level he had, and McKinnon was having one of his best years. Like right now, McKinnon's having his best year, but they're not even top of their division. Remember when the Blackhawks won their cups? Patrick Kane didn't win his Art Wash trophy until 2016. That was after all of their cups. So, like, their best years are right after those championship years. I'm saying they're not in their prime yet. You get those really young teams and those who go to championships. I think those are the ones that beat you on the puck. I think those are the ones that have the speed to get you through the playoffs. Honestly, I really think those young teams are something overlooked. Now, obviously, it's not always the truth. Mm-hmm. Look at the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's a great example of an older team. Look at the Washington Capitals in 2018. Look at the St. Louis Blues in 2019. Like, there are plenty of teams that are not young that win a championship. I'm not saying that it's only young teams ever go that far, but I am saying that it's significant enough that it's somewhat of a trend, and that it would not be something that I would think hurt the Bison in the playoffs. I would argue that it would be something that would help them in the playoffs, because honestly, I think the speed that they play with and the way that they attack the game, I think is exactly what the playoffs are built for. Again, like Eddie Matsushima's game, Brandon Hagel's game, built for the playoffs, because that's what you need in the playoffs, is that relentless on the puck. And with that identity as the team identity, I think it would work perfectly in the playoffs. And again, you've said it so many times on the podcast, but once you're in, that's all you need. Doesn't matter.
This is true.
It doesn't matter if you squeak in by 1 point. Doesn't matter if you had the division lead by 20 points. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
Game 1, all of it's erased. and it's only 7 games, up to 7 games, against the other team in front of you.
All right. That's interesting, because I feel like in a lot of other leagues, you hear about that mix of young and then not old, but more experienced in the playoffs, because I feel like you do need some experience in the playoffs. So I just want to get your take on that, because I know we're a very, very young team, so we'll have to see if we do make the playoffs. We'll have to see how that kind of fares for us, because I might venture to say that maybe not a lot of guys on our team have experienced it, but I don't know.
At the level of the ECHL, yes, but plenty of people in the team have championship experience from lower leagues. And
True.
Eddie Matsushima, again, the captain, hasn't had a bunch of far playoff runs, but he's played in over 10 playoff games.
Yeah.
Over the past couple of years.
And he would be, what I would consider our older experience. Eddie, you're not an old man. That's not what I'm saying.
You calling Eddie old? Wow, that's crazy.
But like he would count it, as one of your more seasoned veterans, which is basically what I was kind of going after. Like, do you think we need more of those seasoned veterans? But obviously, you think the fountain of youth is the key to victory.
Honestly, yeah, I think I like the way this team is constructed. And maybe it is going to take a couple years before they're championship ready or something like that. I'm not saying that this is the year, but I am saying that the team's intriguing. And if you can make the playoffs, anything can happen. And you've said it before. So I'm not saying picture a Kelly Cup in your future. I'm saying don't not paint the picture.
Yeah.
Because it's not over till it's over. Trust me, you learn that game 1. It's not over until it's over.
This is true.
You learn that in the third period of game 1, so learn it now. It ain't over till it's over. And if you learn that by the time of the playoffs, buddy, watch out.
Wise words from Dylan Skeen, y'all.
Those aren't very common either. So, well, that should be it for this episode of the Sin Bin Podcast. Thank you all for joining us for this one.
Real quick, I'm gonna start something new. You didn't know about this, but I'm gonna do it because I'm gonna start it now. But we're gonna do a question. I want to start a question of the week after every episode.
All right, I
think that would be cool. So sorry to interrupt you.
No,
but
please.
I think this is a pretty obvious one for the week.
All right.
But let us know in the comments: will the Bison make the playoffs? I think that's a very simple one to start. But let us know.
Do you think the Bison will make the playoffs?
Subscribe.
I've changed my view.
He did. Dylan changed.
I wasn't gonna do it to I think they're gonna make it now. So let us know what you think, if you think they're gonna make the playoffs or not, because it's coming down to the wire here, and I'm excited about these meaningful games. You keep talking about them.
Yes,
Coaches
sir.
keep talking about them. Meaningful games. Well, let me tell you, you got 2 more big ones coming up. But that should be it. Again, comment that down below if you think they're going to make it. And other than that, that's it for today.